I just received my new iTeracare Classic 2.0 device, and I am excited to share with you the differences that I'm experiencing between the original Classic and the new Classic 2.0. So stick with me. Here we go. I'm going to first start with just the box. I know a lot of people are like, Renee, who cares about the box? But the box is kind of a big thing because a lot of us travel and or we go from our house to maybe our parents' house or our kids' house, and we want to take it with us, and because we're doing therapy or helping other people with it. So having a really good sturdy box to make sure that it's easy to travel with and it's safe is really important. So the old box was a nice cardboard box, but it wasn't all that stable and sturdy, and it didn't have a handle. Well, welcome to the new 2.0 Carol Merrill box. This really is nice. It's very, very sturdy, and it has this beautiful handle, and it's like magnetized. So it stays in. You can see it has a nice handle, and look at how lovely that is. So it even has a nice cushioning, and the particular stockist gave me a little heart. How beautiful was that? Thank you to Mississippi. All right, so this is a beautiful box. Now we can travel with it and know that it's safe. I think that's really important. Now, let's take a look at the upgrades. First, I'm going to show you my original iTeracare. So if you don't even know what I'm talking about, you'll get a sense. This is the original. Now, you might notice right here that I have some red electrical tape here on this joint. Why? Because we found out pretty quickly that there was a joint here that was kind of vulnerable. So we just recommended putting some tape on here. That's been great for me, no problem. So I have that. Now, what else will we notice on this one? The switches are on this body right here in the middle. I'll get to that in a moment. And on the back, here's where the cord attaches, and it doesn't swivel. So sometimes what has happened in the past is, people were kind of pulling on it, or maybe your child gets a hold of it or something. And this was also vulnerable where you could pull on it and it might take out the little gate on here. So the manufacturers of this, it's obvious they took a look at all the vulnerabilities from a device standpoint. Now, I'm saying it this way to say it because the technology itself, the three core technologies, have not changed. So it's not like the new device is more powerful from a technology standpoint, but it's definitely a better built device. So let me show you that. I showed you that vulnerable joint. Well, what did they do? Guess what? They now make it so that you can, yes, you twist it on here, making that joint much more stable. There's no instability to this, and it really feels just beautiful, nice. It just feels like a more solid, well-built device, and it is. Now, let's take a look at where these switches are. The switches are now up here on this more solid part of the device. And you'll see it still has the three switches, and off it goes. So we now have the switches in a different place, making it a little bit more sturdy from a long-term switch standpoint. And I thought this was quite clever. It now swivels here, which really is helpful. So like if you're doing, your back, it's going to swivel instead of pull out at the gate part. So these are the biggest differences from the original to this new device. And it just kind of feels a little nicer in my hand as I put the two together. It does feel a little bit more stable. Now, in terms of size, I'm putting these up together so you can see I'm going to try and keep them right about the same. The new size is just a little bit longer, which is interesting. But because of how they redesigned it, I don't feel like I have a lot more pressure on the outs on my wrist as I'm doing it. So that's been an issue for some people that are trying to use it that maybe have wrist and hand issues, carpal tunnel, etc. So I'm really happy, 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 and thought they did a really good job with the new design of that. Now, let's talk about one more thing, and I'm going to pull up my little PDF here. So just give me a second. We're going to add this because this is a nice chart comparison of the two. Because what I do want to talk about here are the settings. They changed the settings a bit. So let's talk about on the new settings. So on the classic one, level one was a medium speed, medium heat. I always call it a blow instead of a speed because that for me just gives me a little bit more understanding. So the amount of like how much it's blowing, they're just saying the speed of it. So the original on level one was a medium speed, medium heat. Okay. On the new one, it's a low speed and they're calling it a low heat. Now, I want you to put your little push pin in that. We're going to talk about the heat in a moment. The second on the original was a low speed, low heat. And then this one is a high speed, medium heat. So they kind of shifted it up a little bit. So if you have the one, you'll play with the two. It's a little bit different. On the level three on the one, it was a medium speed and a high heat. On this one is a high speed and a high heat. That's a lot of words to say, isn't it? So let me just share with you with this new wand. Okay, the first one is low speed, low heat. Now, here's my experience and what I'm seeing when I'm kind of listening in the groups to everybody else's experience. Heat and the perception of heat is very individual to each of us. I had no idea, but I'm really finding that to be true. Kind of like our taste buds, right? Each of us, some people think certain things just are delicious and other people don't like them. It's very individual. It's the same with heat, and it's also with heat, I found, individual to the place on the body that you are blowing on. For example, like the back of your hand might be really sensitive where maybe another part of the body isn't. So that's just something to pay attention to. Now, I am finding that this new device is hot. It is hot. I'm not really seeing a low heat on there. So even where it's claiming that level one is low speed, low heat, I'm finding it low speed and depending on where you're doing it, it's kind of a medium heat. Now, if you're trying to do it and you're finding that it's just too hot, really simple, you just pull it further away from the body and you will feel that that amount of heat will dissipate. It will get less for sure. Don't worry though, it doesn't mean that you're not getting the same amount of the terahertz and the scalar frequencies. That technology, it will still heat, does not reduce the frequency. At least that at this moment is my understanding of that. Okay. I always hold out a little bit. So if I get new information, I'll share it. But at this point, that's my information. Okay. So that's not it. It's amount of heat. Now, what's this thing with heat? Well, in traditional Chinese medicine, heat is a big part of the therapy. And don't you know, when we get hurt or injured or whatever, just that heat just can feel really good in the body. It also helps to unbind and hydrate fascia and open up the meridian system. So the heat is part of the therapy. Just know that. So that's why there is heat on all three settings. All right. So low heat is what they're calling it. You might experience it a little bit higher. Here's one thing that I will note. I noticed that on level one, it's quieter. I'm not going to say it's completely quiet, but I know some people are very sensitive to the sound and they sound like hair dryers. When people ask me, what does it sound? It sounds like a hair dryer. So if your hair dryer is just, oh, you can't stand the sound, just know it's going to be, depending on your hair dryer and all that stuff, the variables, but it does sound like that. But on low speed, medium heat, even though it says low here, it is quite a bit quieter. So I do like that. Then the second one, it says on level two, high speed, medium heat. Um, yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate. And then when we go up to level three, actually, I almost like didn't even realize I had changed it. Nothing happened that I was able to notice in terms of the blow. It almost didn't feel like I changed it. But when you go up to three, it is hot. Just saying, you guys, it's hot. So you're going to have to really pull it far away for most of us. Okay. But it is nice to have that really high heat, if that's something that you need. So, another thing to pay attention to as well is when we're doing our treatments, I use that, or just the blowing, you want to always keep it moving. We don't just hold it on a space. Okay, that's important to know. And I don't know that we've all really shared that much. So I want to share that. You're always moving it. You can move it in circles, you can move it up and down. That's completely up to you, but you do want to keep moving it so that you're not putting it that heat on one place and burning yourself. Keep everything moving. Okay. So that's what I can say about this one. My experience so far, and I've only just gotten it, but my experience so far is with the 2.0, it is a bit hotter than the 1.0. I'm just saying. Now, I know that I have shared on the face that you want to keep it on cool temperature. That's the information that I've received. I have now seen other information saying, no, it's okay to use the heat on the face, but don't do it for long. Take it out further if it's uncomfortable. Eyes, you always close, regardless heat or no heat. So you're going to close the eyes if you want to do it, and just keep it really moving. Now, I found personally, when I use it with some heat, I do have to keep it moving, and I don't go very long. If I go a little too long, I do get almost like a burning sensation, and the next day it does get a little peely. I'm okay with that because I know it's still healing, and then the skin looks great, a few days later. That's going to be up to you. All right. So again, the information that I'm sharing is the information we have right at this moment. So I hope that that really helps you. Um, bottom line, Renee, what do you think? Well, you know what? Here's my bottom line. I still love my classic 1.0. All right. Um, my one setting is cooler. I'm going to use that more on my face. I like it a little bit cooler on some of the places that might be a little more sensitive to the heat. But I'm also very, very pleased, if you will, with the upgrades to the 2.0. I think this is a much better built device. I'm very pleased with the changes. This device is $30 more, so they did raise the price in the United States for this device. And it is, I believe, for the upgrades, and also because shipping costs have just escalated, as we know. So it is a little bit more expensive, but I personally feel that that extra $30 into how they have upgraded this, I'm happy to pay that for that. Cool setting, take it away. And I think that pretty much answers those questions. So I hope that this review has been helpful. And even if you have a 1.0, at some point you might want to upgrade to a 2.0, or take a look at the premium device, which happens to be one of my absolute favorites. And you can see another one of my videos to see why. So thank you again so much. Appreciate it. Take good care and have a terrific.
Before we go ahead, don't forget to click the subscribe button on my channel.